We rummaged through the Sicko Stachel in the first segment, and boy, it is a doozy. After that, we'll finish up the player recaps with Jalen McDaniels and Theo Maledon, all today on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that does include YouTube. That's Doug Branson. Follow his work on everyhornetsboxscore.com, where he provides his substack. The laugh gets me too. You've been doing a lot of silly stuff that's been making me laugh recently. And
just trying to keep the energy up, okay? Because we're trying to get excited here about this lottery. I'm trying to make all the bad thoughts go away, trying to really focus, stay positive, stay number one minded, Wemby minded. I've been eating baguettes all week.
Okay.
Have not pooped in a week.
Okay.
But it's going to all be worth it. It's all going to come out on Tuesday, all at one time when we get Wembanyama.
Just do it before the live show. Don't wait. Just that would be bad.
Live show will be explosive, folks.
Oh man, make sure you watch out all across the country. I'm Walker Mail. You can find me on WFNZ. Listen to me every weekday. 92.7 FM from 12 to 3 p.m. I was in a group chat. My buddies were texting about, hey, if it's not Wemby, could it be Scoot? Like, do you want him? Brandon Miller? Friends were providing their big boards. And all I found myself doing was just daydreaming about Wemby on this team, Doug. It did go to that. Like, I was in there defending Scoot. You and I are both big old Scoot fans. We both like Scoot. We're scooting in the second overall selection if that's where they land. But I did find myself like Mark Williams at the 5 and Wemby at the 4, having the longest wingspan ever, where you have Wemby who can just guard a pick and roll all by himself. I'm not sure you need another defender to guard a pick and roll, which is just remarkable. But if you do, we have the guy that has a 7'9" standing reach back there somewhere to protect the rim. I daydream about all the arms. And LaMelo, 6'7" point guard. Can I interest you in that? I'm sorry. I know we got to get to the Satchel, but I'm daydreaming. I'm excited, and here I am talking to Wemby.
Well, it means immediate national attention for this franchise. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it will mean national attention. It's going to mean more national TV games, and I'll tell you what it's also going to mean, Walker. Yeah. I think it's pretty much a guarantee that it's going to mean a Christmas Day game for the Charlotte Hornets as soon as next season if they get Wemby, because they're the only team that is yet to have a Christmas game. And I would hate if we got some like pity Christmas Day game where it's like, all right, well, we got to give it to the Hornets because they haven't had one, so we'll put them up against the Pacers or something as like the first game when nobody's watching. I don't want it to be that. I would love if it's Wemby versus Scoot on Christmas. That'd be pretty special.
Yeah. Doug, let me tell you, though, to continue to go down this conspiracy, you are guaranteeing it. I think that's probably the right move, because this year, the NFL is taking over Christmas Day. They have 3 games on Christmas Day. So the one time that the Hornets would get a Christmas Day game, you better believe the NFL is going to come in and take all of your viewers. So it would make a lot of sense. I think that's a great guarantee by you. Speaking of Wemby, let's go to the first question in the Sicko Stachel. I want to get to all of them. I like all of them. Trey wrote in hypothetical.
Wait. Hold on.
Sorry. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. This is my fault. Doug has been hard at work. I saw him in the community section of the YouTube page asking for more Sicko Stachel questions. That is what allowed us to get some of these great ones. He's also been in the lab working on an open for the Sicko Stachel, because this thing is going to ride us out this entire offseason. It's going to be fantastic. So, Doug, why don't you play us the debut of the intro of the Sicko Stachel?
Okay, before I do that, I know you just did a great job leading in a very radio professional way. I could feel the beats.
Just neutered.
And I know you wanted me to drop it right there, but I just have to take a moment to say I've been turning knobs. I've been pushing buttons. I've been utilizing all of my musical vibey expertise, because what this Sicko Stachel is, for those just tuning in, is our version of a mailbag because nobody needs another mailbag. But to cheer for the Hornets is somewhat of a mental illness at this point. You have to be a little bit mentally ill to continue to cheer for this team. You have to be a sicko. And so this satchel is full of sickos who I challenge people on YouTube. I'm like, give me your sickest questions. I want this dripping with sickness. Like, I cannot stop watching this team. I can't stop caring about Cody Martin, and I need you to answer this question. So these are the absolute sickest questions, and I want you to keep them coming on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LockedOnHornets, and on the community page. Okay, now that we've done that, I will do the thing that you did.
Now we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back in just a moment. Nope. Locked on. I'm sorry. All right, go ahead.
I'm going to chop the talk up and hit the beats so that we can play the debut of the Sicko Stachel drop.
Come on, you shameful little sickos.
It's scary. It's spooky.
It's so eerie. Yeah, this is a drop that is PG-13. I am sorry if I'm scaring or if we are scaring any children out there. All right, with that drop and with the neutered intro that I had to get to the real intro that Doug had, let's go to Trey's first question in the Sicko Stachel. Hypothetical: if, all caps, parentheses, big if, we land Wemby, sign Miles Bridges, re-sign P.J. Washington, and don't make any other moves, Mitch doing his thing, what's the starting lineup? I love this question. We kind of dabbled into it a little bit, but didn't explore it thoroughly. Doug, I give this to you. The first Sicko Stachel question with the intro. What's the starting lineup in that situation?
Well, this is a Trey, just a fantastic job. This is super sick. This is dripping nose. This is a hacky cough. You're hacking up a little blood into the napkin. This is a super sick question because there's so much hope tied up into it. There's a little weirdness tied up into it. There's a little resignation tied up into it. So just a great job overall. But yeah, what?
You give that man the starting lineup.
It's tough, man, because I'll say this. If they get Wemby, do they re-sign PJ? I mean, there's a real question there. If you get Wemby, because I think you got to play Wemby and Mark together. I really do. I love the idea of playing those two guys together. Wemby, yes, played the center role for his team in France. That doesn't mean anything. He's a do-it-all guy. I mean, you could play him at power forward and play Mark at center, let him do most of the work inside, let him go grab all the offensive boards and let Wemby clean it up on the defensive end. And let Wemby, because Wemby's going to want to stay outside, to shoot threes, and you don't want him constantly crashing the glass. So play him with Mark. And then in the small forward position, look, if you sign Miles Bridges, I think you've got to move him into the starting lineup. So that means Gordon Hayward moves back to maybe a bench role. Or you go big and you say, finally, we're going to do something about this backcourt and say Gordon Hayward and a Miles and go a little bit bigger, and then LaMelo at the point guard instead of Terry, maybe move Terry to a six-man role. So I'll go with that. I'll say LaMelo, Gordon, Miles, Wemby, Mark. It's a huge lineup. It's risky, but it's the kind of thing you got to do to shake up this Eastern Conference.
Yeah, Gordon in the backcourt it's a big old team, man. It's LaMelo at point at 6'7", and Gordon like 6'8", 6'9" out there at the 2 spot. Miles Bridges being the 3, who often has been power forward. I like it. I do like it.
You're gonna get killed by quick teams. Teams that go a little small on you. You're gonna have to make adjustments. But I think I think for the first 8 minutes, you can survive with that lineup.
I think they'd start Terry. I do. I think Gordon Hayward would come off the bench. I think it would be LaMelo, Terry, 1-2. I think Miles would play the 3. And I think you would have Wemby and Mark Williams out there. And by the way, just to try to envision how those two would play, at least at one end of the floor, I think you would almost have you could have Wemby stretch the floor with his three-point shooting right now, because he's going to come in with that ability more so than Mark. But defensively, I think you could compare that a little bit to a Giannis Brook Lopez duo, where you have Mark Williams as Brooke Lopez, somebody that's an excellent rim protector that can sit down in the paint, play drop coverage, and Giannis is the rover that just uses his wingspan and helps out a lot. That could be Wemby. That would be so. I really like that idea, taking that model. Maybe you take the head coach too, Mike Budenholzer, but at least you take that model with Steve Clifford, and I think those guys could be out there in the starting lineup. So I would have Gordon probably off of the bench, and all of a sudden, Doug, 7 deep. Gordon Hayward, P.J. Washington off of the bench. It's a solid 2 guys coming off of the bench for sure. So I would really like that. I want to get to some more of those questions. Maybe we can get to Jalen McDaniels and Theo in the last segment. But coming up next on Locked On Hornets.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
You're going to hear that drop again. I'm going to send it to it. We're going to play it. So you're going to hear that drop. And we're still going to rummage through the Sicko Stachel. Yolo wrote in a question about possibly trading Terry Rozier and the 27th pick for one player in particular. We'll get to that one. Plus, Treyo with 2 threes in the middle, like Alonzo Mourning. He asked a question about LaMelo and how much we love him. So this is the sickest of Sicko questions. We're going to get to that in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. You sounded like the evil laugh out there. You sounded like you were the guy. Yeah. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage tab and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices, all of the right stuff on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Sicko Stachel, once again, coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
And would I have liked to see a few more shards? No, I would not have.
That's awesome shards.
Only on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Doug, let's go to this one coming in from Yolo, writing it in. What do you guys think about trading Terry Rozier and the 27th pick for Gary Trent Jr. to help our starting backcourt defense? And then I'll send it to the intro as well because I forgot about that. But let's ask the question and then answer it first. Terry Rozier, 27th overall pick for Gary Trent Jr. to help the backcourt defense. At least for me, like, I don't know if I think awesome backcourt defense the first time I hear Gary Trent Jr.'s name. I don't know if I'm doing that to bolster it. Now, if you look at some of the reports on him and the evaluation, last year there was a funny quote from Kim Birch, who actually said, "I've never seen someone as bad a defender as Gary Trent Jr. grow as much as he did." And so he gave him a great compliment, but also bashed his defense before. And then at the beginning of this season, kind of going into December, a lot of people were wondering where that went. He had decreased. He had gone down again on that end of the floor. And then eventually I think maybe leveled out just a little bit. What do you make of that trade? Would you make it?
Well, first, this is the sickest question we've had so far. I mean, it's making me, I'm going to vomit. I am going to throw up as soon as the show is over. This question is so sick because this is a sicko who has been watching a backcourt in the Charlotte Hornets composed of LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier get sliced and diced night after night and not even have a rim protector to help out. So it's just free runs to the rim all over the place. And they just have to keep watching. They've got the little clips on the eyes. They can't look away. And they've just had to watch this terrible defense. And this sicko will do anything. Even take Gary Trent Jr., who is on a player option right now. The Hornets could trade for him, and then Gary Trent Jr. could say, actually, I would just like to exercise this player option and go somewhere else.
Love it.
So, you can't really do that trade if you're the Hornets because of the player option situation. You know, and you couldn't really get much assurance on the future there. But I like the thinking, which is, can the Hornets, especially if they get Wemby, can they address the backcourt issues and maybe add some defense that makes a little bit more sense, so that you don't have to consider starting Gordon Hayward? Could they do something and try to leverage Rozier or the final year of Gordon Hayward's deal to make that happen? Gary Trent Jr., if you look at the LeBron, D LeBron, you know, he's pretty much a slightly below average or slightly below average defensive player, slightly below average offensive player. But honestly, like a slightly below average defensive wing shooting guard would be a vast improvement over the defense from either LaMelo or Terry. So that would be a massive upgrade. So yeah, I mean, I like the idea here, but Gary Trent Jr. is probably going to be an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, and so he's making $19 million basically this season. So just to kind of go with the
maybe he sticks around, but I think there'll be enough interest. I think he'll opt out.
37% shooting from three on 7 attempts per game. Been pretty consistent the last couple of years. So 2-point percentage, not great from him overall, isn't, but he's a shooter. That's what Gary Trent Jr. does, and averaged 17.4 this past year, 18.3, 16.2, and then 15 each of the or the year prior to that. So a guy can score. I hate giving up the picks. I find him valuable. 27th overall. I know it's late. I get it. But you'd move off the Terry Rozier contract and you'd free up some space. So ultimately, yeah, I don't know.
Well, hold on, Walker. You better hope that they trade that 27th pick for a Gary Trent Jr. because they're liable to trade this 27th pick somehow for like the 37th pick next season.
Yeah,
so
right.
like,
you're so
I'll take Gary Trent Jr.
Want,
over the 37th pick next season.
I know. I think you're right about that. Let's move on to the next question. Did you want to play the intro on this one? Did you want to get the eerie music back?
Come on, you shameful little sickos.
It's really scary. It really is. This is
Thank
giving
you.
me big time.
This is an original composition. Yeah. That's the vibe I was going for.
This is giving
sick.
me big
These are
time.
sick people, asking sick questions, and we're two sickos trying to answer them.
Big time 5th grade haunted hallway vibes. This is the thing that was going on in the background, and I was waiting for like 5-year-olds to come out and scare me all the time. This is what was playing.
Yeah, the scariest thing, Walker, is that we're going to be talking about Jalen McDaniels and Theo Maledon in the third segment. That's the scariest thing that we could say on this podcast.
No, it's not. This question is the scariest. Treo number 1. He wrote this in, Doug. Do we love LaMelo because he is a bona fide superstar, or because he is just the closest thing we have to one? Doug, you've been wanting to explain how, are you throwing up? Is there blood in your throw up? Am I being graphic enough for your pleasure here to talk about just
blood is streaming out of my eyes right now. I've got stigmatas on both hands. I am attaching myself to the ceiling. That is the sickest thing. I need an exorcist to come in here. I've got a poltergeist on my television, and it's Hugo the Hornet. This is the sickest question. Do we love LaMelo because he's a bona fide superstar?
Hugo.
Or because he's just the closest thing we have to one? Well, look, I mean, I think we love LaMelo because he's exciting to watch. And yes, it is relative to not having a lot of exciting things to watch. But I think I personally love LaMelo because he represents the Hornets having something that presents matchup difficulties for another team. Kemba did that. Big Al did that. Stack Jack to a certain extent did that. Gerald Wallace on the defensive end, but the Hornets have just not had a lot of elite players, and I think LaMelo presents the opportunity, and we should just appreciate that, just full stop, and not say, well, it's because the Hornets don't have one. I think it's fun to cheer for future superstars in the league.
Well, and he's really good too. Like he does represent hope. He is the chosen one. He is like Neo from the Matrix being Laneo Ball. This is our hope to bring us to some kind of greater promised land. Lanio ball, baby. That's my catchphrase. You want one that I'm going to make that for LaMelo, baby. Lanio, the person that can maybe take us and show us the truth that is the actual Eastern Conference Finals appearance that we've been longing for so much. And I was talking about this too with the All-NBA selections, Doug. We were talking about this on WFNZ. He's really good. And so we were talking about, could you get to a third team possibly next year? We compared it to De'Aaron Fox, who clearly had a big old jump, and Sacramento experienced some success. Also, SGA had a huge jump, got first team, despite Oklahoma City not being phenomenal, being a play-in team. So there's a couple of ways. I think there's a realistic opportunity for LaMelo. If there is a big jump, he's got to finish better inside the three-point arc. That's just the way it is. He's got to get to the foul line more. I don't even know for sure how much better defensively he has to get. I think that is a small part in him getting all NBA. Maybe just us valuing him more for sure and everybody else. But I think there is a shot. And if that's the case, if you get a top 15 nod, then yeah, I think he provides hope to be a superstar.
Yeah, you got to have the team success. I mean, that was the big thing with Sacramento. You have to have guys, and it all sort of works in tandem, right? If the team is successful, it's because guys are overperforming and they're staying healthy, and that equals wins. And so it all sort of works together. But Clifford has talked about that. I don't know if he said this during his first run or anytime during the second run, but he talks about, like, you know, for teams that don't go to the playoffs a lot to go to the playoffs, it requires multiple guys being in the conversation for awards because they're performing on that level. That's what happened with Sacramento. That's what's going to happen if Charlotte were to make the turnaround. I think it gets kind of awkward for this whole idea of LaMelo being Lanio ball if they get Wemby, because then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you just added another.
Right. Forgot
you just
about
added
that.
another guy who's super rare. Yeah. But I think LaMelo, fortunately for the franchise, I think LaMelo does think very highly of himself, but I've not seen him as someone that gets like jealous by other people's success. Like when Miles was having the come up year, like those two were really close with each other, remained close, and it wasn't a rivalry when Miles was the leading scorer. It wasn't a rivalry between those two. So I think LaMelo is going to play really well. I'm speaking as if this is already going to happen. I'm just putting it into the universe. He's going to play really well when they get Wembanyama. Or Scoot. Like if it's Scoot, I think same thing happens. You know, LaMelo would play really well. I'll say for first team All NBA, for LaMelo to hit that, he does have to score. Like you just don't see guys that aren't centers.
First team's going to be, it's going to be so
you just don't see guys that aren't elite scorers, that aren't centers, making first team All NBA.
Yeah, I mean, SGA went for 30. I mean, he had a huge jump. So now the team's success wasn't great, so I think that's the kind of hope. But if you want to do the De'Aaron Fox example, third team All-NBA, you bring in Wemby. Well, De'Aaron had the help of Domantas Sabonis, who also got third team. And so you had some help. You both were able to lift each other up to get there. The shooting is way better with LaMelo, but finishing and driving to the basket is a lot better for De'Aaron. Clutch scoring as well. So, yeah, I just feel like there are some paths. All right, last one before we get to Theo and Jalen real quickly, Doug. This one is written in by all caps Doug in the rundown. Mark Williams to represent the Hornets. Right choice? ? Okay, that one is from Doug. We appreciate him contributing to the Sicko Stachel.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we got to see this news. We got to see thank you. We got to see this dropped a little bit earlier. I think it was like around, I don't know, noon today, something like that. I think it's fine. I think Mark Williams going over there as a first round pick, that hit. Yeah, man. Mitch Kupchak gonna be better than Mitch, showing no emotion whatsoever, sitting there at the chair. I think Devontae Graham represented us one time as well. So I like Mark.
PJ's been up there.
Yeah, that's right. So what about you? Do you like Mark representing us?
I think it's a fine choice. It feels like they I don't know if lucky's the right word. I mean, they hit on Mark Williams. That wasn't a guarantee. He comes in and doesn't play enough games to be in the all rookie selection, but I don't think there's a doubt in many fans' minds that he is the center of the future, that he's going to be a defensive anchor for a team that has not had a defensive anchor in a very long time. And so why not try to gather a little bit of luck by celebrating last year's success? Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine with Mark Williams. Obviously, you know, I would love them to get weird with the choice. And I don't know what that is. If it's Stack Jack, if it's Boris Diaw, I want to see some weirdness with the choice. But
Jack
I'll take
great.
if it's Bryce Young, maybe throw Bryce Young up there. It gets super weird. But I'm fine with Mark Williams.
That would be great. All right, let's talk about that during the break. I would love to explore that. Who should represent the Hornets at the draft lottery?
I think you should.
Right.
I think Walker Mail should represent the Charlotte Hornets for the draft.
Scared. People would blame me.
You're on
when
the flagship
Hornets
station. It all makes sense. You're tall.
Yeah. All right.
You could dunk a ball.
I did. I put that video out there. Go check it out at Walker Mail, baby. It was 10 foot, I promise. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. It's been a long road, but we conclude the player recaps of the 2022-2023 season by double dipping, discussing Jalen McDaniels before he was traded to Philadelphia and Theo Maledon, giving us a nice sandwich season played at the beginning and at the end. That's coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
And just that I showed any kind of vulnerability,
Well,
I think Nada's just going to jump
You
all
are the
over.
gazelle limping through the African safari.
I'm in the mud. I'm in some sticky mud.
You
I
are the
can't get
hippo
out.
stuck in the mud.
Yes. And I'm about to just get destroyed by Nada's
By
jaws.
Nas.
By Nas. He's going to come out with me a rap battle.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, let's start with Jalen. Oh, sweet baby Jalen McDaniels got traded at the deadline for really a second round pick.
You're so sad
Yeah.
about it. You're so sad.
I cry. I cry to that intro that you made of the Sicko Stachel, and I cry to Jalen McDaniels' trade to Philadelphia. Both things scare me because I thought bad things were going to happen. Jalen McDaniels at the beginning of this season, it really came out shooting very well. Trying to go back, scrolling back to his game log. Yeah, so if you look back, he was 1 of 2 in the debut from three-point range, 4 of 4, 1 of 3, 3 of 3, 0 of 2, 2 of 5, 3 of 4. And so right there, before we get to November, just those 7 games in October, he came out red hot and then hit a real cold streak where he was taking multiple threes and not making much of them at all. And so eventually, the hot shooting would end, almost a little Cody Martin-esque, except Cody's lasted a lot longer than Jalen's. And eventually they'd move on from him, Doug. Just as we do the rapid fire, 1 segment double dip here. What did you make of the first half, right? His time Jalen McDaniels played with the Charlotte Hornets before he was traded at the deadline.
It was up and down, and probably too inconsistent to really make the case that they should keep him and invest more time and player development into him. But I think he's still a player development success story, in that he did carve out a role while he was here and did become tradable. But I think he and Mason were 2 players that it made a lot more sense to get rid of, because it did make you slightly worse in the short term, but is not really going to harm you long term. Like, I don't project Jalen McDaniels to all of a sudden to kind of pull a bowl and all of a sudden become like an elite player for another team. I think he is going to be a role player.
Become an elite player for another team. Did you?
Well, Bol is. He's looking like a really nice piece for the Magic. It took a while. Yeah, like elite
player.
Maybe I threw that word out a little too lackadaisically, but
okay.
but still,
all right.
People that I think fans of the Denver Nuggets are certainly looking at that and going, take a Malik Monk. Fans of the Charlotte Hornets are looking at Malik Monk and going, oh, why couldn't the Hornets just invest a few more years? And of course, that's just not the way it works with these guys. They got to travel around a little bit before they figure it out. But I think Jalen's always going to be a role player at best. And, I thought his play really frustrated me a lot this season, because there were opportunities for him to be a clutch 3-point corner scorer, and he would just miss those time after time. Fourth quarter, big situations, the ball would find him, he'd be wide open and not be able to knock it down. That was frustrating. There were a lot of turnovers that I felt like were just like, man, role players really can't be making those kind of plays. You look at Caleb Martin, what his role with the Miami Heat, just smart basketball constantly, just not making mistakes. And Jalen made a few too many mistakes for my liking. And so, I think it was good that they decided to move on, especially given the context, which is they did need to get a little worse.
Well, the contract too, like that's, I obviously didn't like the trade. I didn't want to do it just for a second round pick in return. But, if PJ Washington, if you're going to bring back Miles Bridges, which we had no clue about what was going to happen with Miles at the time. I mean, we kind of had an idea. If you're going to shell out all this money and not trade Terry, not trade Gordon, it would have been dicey. And so,
well,
yeah,
they certainly tried, but you can't trade Terry, and you might be able to trade Gordon now, but
yeah. So they decided to move on, collect something for him. Overall, I really liked him. Yeah, I thought like good defender. I thought success story, kind of like you mentioned, as far as a second round pick that had that kind of ability that could play 3-4. The shot wasn't falling as much at the end of the season, and so they got a second round pick for him. Now, Theo Maledon, I will tell you this about Theo. If you look at his stats, right, he plays. Mm-hmm. You're done? You're not going to go with the other one?
Gotta let go.
Okay. Thank you. Played really a part of the rotation every single night for the most part until the new year. So December 31st, weird. These things kind of coincided with holidays. Mark Williams played December 26th. Theo Maledon was out of the rotation by the new year. Weird stuff like that. But Theo Maledon, the last time that he was really a part of the rotation, the first go around, game 35 for him was against Brooklyn, December 31st. And if you look at his stats, that first run, he shot 41% from the field, 32 from three, 2.5 assists per game on 16 minutes per contest. So would not play really at all. He played one game against Phoenix in January. Still wouldn't be playing inactive all the way through game 75 to game 82. And in that last little run he had, it was much of the same. In fact, maybe even worse with the efficiency numbers. I didn't expect him to be that bad, to be honest with you, Doug. It felt like we had a very positive outlook on Theo. These numbers are really bad, just as far as the offense goes. But somebody that you trusted with the basketball in his hands. Talk about making smart decisions. I really like Theo facilitating. This is somebody that it's a cop-out for a lot of different evaluations if you just like someone. I do think Theo is someone you got to watch play basketball in order to appreciate him, because the box score is not going to help you. It's just not. And so maybe that's what you want to subscribe to. I get it. If you're not watching Hornets basketball every single day, and there's a lot of people that aren't, then I get it. You might want to move on. I think useful enough to have a roster spot on this team, and I think helped out a team that was in desperate need of a ball handler and made smart decisions. That's how I kind of felt about him. What about you?
Yeah, and I think the reason he didn't play for some period of time, I don't know the exact numbers, but because the Hornets were injured, they were utilizing a lot of guys who were on, different kinds of deals that all come with sort of stipulations, two-way contracts, that kind of thing. And there's game played, time served, where you got to all right, now we got to make some decisions. So I think that was part of the calculus with Theo Maledon. Playing or not playing. But yeah, when he was playing, I'm surprised at those numbers too overall. And I think it's a case of a guy who had, didn't take a ton of shots all the time. And so when he did start to take more shots, I think especially towards the end of the year, that probably ate into his numbers a little bit. But I think there was some early success. He can babysit an offense, give the starting point guard a breather, give LaMelo a breather. You trust him in that role for sure. RAPIDE CINQ, he was a guy that would come in, immediate energy. You know what I'm saying? Off the bench, bam, bam. He's gonna hit a three, and then he's gonna get fouled and drop 2 free throws. I love that kind of guy. Now, is there a better option? Are there better options out there? Like Dennis Smith Jr., who's going to give you something that you probably need a little bit more, like defense. Yeah. Are there? I think, Theo's probably going to be a victim of his own success in that early part of the year, and the word getting out that hey, Theo's got something in the tank. Oklahoma City may have cut him loose too soon. I think the word's going to get out, and Theo's going to find a better situation, better contract, somewhere else, because I think the Hornets are fast running out of, they're gonna quickly run out of money in roster spots. So I think Theo is probably not long for the Charlotte Hornets, but it was a fun ride.
Well, and by the way, he did average over 8 assists in the last 8 games that he played. It's a lot. And yeah, of course, he was getting a lot more minutes. He did that. He did that 34 minutes a game. He was playing a lot at the end when the Hornets finally officially threw in the towel. But you know what Theo Maledon has a lot of potential to be, Doug, and I mean oozing potential to be a future Sicko player. I mean,
yeah.
Dude, Theo Maledon, I mean, could be captain. If we could be speaking about Theo 3, 4, 5 years from now, looking back on it and say, you know what? I want Theo running point for my Sicko squad.
Oh, he's got some
Just
stiff competition for Briante Weber, Gennaro Parker, a lot of good names at the point guard spot. He's got a lot of competition.
Yeah, I love Briante. Yeah, Theo he had just enough, right? And he almost, it's also sneaky too. Played the last 8 games, played the first 2 months, but a big old gap in between. Might not play again for him. Might take Theo. I don't know. We'll have to look at the Sickos.
By the way, I take it back. I take it back. You should not represent the Hornets at the draft lottery. I should. I don't know why I gave it to you.
Okay.
I'm obviously the perfect choice. I'm a super fan. I'm super lucky. You're lucky to have me, for example. I think I would be a great choice. I would be a responsible choice. I wouldn't do anything. I mean, seriously, if you saw me up on the podium, okay, and they're revealing the names, and then they reveal, I wouldn't be Rich Cho. I wouldn't just like stare at the camera, deer in the headlights, looking like a little sad baby up there because, we didn't get the Anthony Davis pick. I would not do that. In fact, you would not want to see the Hornets fall in the draft, because then I would pitch a fit. I'd knock over some stuff on the way out. I'd try to pick some fights. But if we did win, I mean, can you imagine if Doug Branson from the Locked On Hornets podcast was sitting up there? I think they should consider it. That's all I'm saying.
No, we'll push this out. Please help us with our efforts to get Doug Branson at the NBA draft lottery to represent the Charlotte Hornets.
The sickest of the sickos. I mean, I would be representing the Sicko Brigade. I would wear, a Lance Stevenson jersey that they are still trying to put on clearance in the arena. I would do it.
You're a man of the people, Doug. We appreciate you doing that. Putting Lance Stevenson's jersey on one more time to hopefully get that #1 overall pick. That actually seems like a bad idea. That seems like you would blow away the chances of getting the #1 overall pick. All right, thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen today. Now make your second listen. Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. The player recaps are done. So is the week. Remember, Tuesday, we're going to get you primed for the draft lottery happening on May 16th. And then we'll give you a live show on Tuesday as well, going with a little double dip next week. So we got a busy week ahead. We appreciate all of your support. Subscribe to YouTube. Also, check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you Monday.